That was my least favorite intro music. It was like, oh, it's called Daydreaming. That should be great. No, it's terrible.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I was like, it's like
Not
slow.
us.
Yeah. No. Although I do have to apologize. I feel like last week I was so tired. Most of you know, like I have a pretty new baby and I work a crazy, exciting, fun, cool job, but it's a lot. And so I literally was like, and today's like I couldn't even like rewatch it. And my husband was watching it in the front room. He's like, were you gonna like fall asleep? I'm like, I think so. Like I was trying to push through. So I apologize. I'm sure cancers, you guys are also kind and just caring and loving and like it's okay. We understand you're tired. Thank God I have more spunk today for Leo because we all know they're not as forgiving.
We're doing the best we can, and we show up authentically, and that's all I can really say for that. That is plenty. For some reason, it did not go live on Facebook, so pardon. I'm just logging in real quick. But you can go ahead and start, and then as I fix this, you don't need me.
Okay. Well, today we're discussing Leo in the 5th house. And so if you have any Leo placements you want to tune in, if you have a lot of 5th house placements you will want to tune in. Leo is a fixed sign. It is a fire sign. And so when you take those two elements and you have someone who doesn't really budge but is also fiery, you have a very, I would say, delicate, tender soul. A lot of Leos, I was just telling Julie, like they don't love change. They don't like readjusting, and that's that fixed placement energy. But then there's like that fire element that's like fun and free and on the fly. They do have this kind of like, let's do this, be spontaneous. But it's kind of the flow of the two are very challenging. So I'm always like, I feel bad for my Leo people that are struggling with like, oh, the change, but I want to be fun and exciting and have new adventures. But I'm also like, they have that thing. So if you're a Leo and you're like, I totally get that, I see you.
Oh, yeah.
And then, there's also the evolved Leo and the unevolved Leo. And then there's the unevolved and evolved masculine energy and the evolved and unevolved feminine energy. So depending on what you possess and how much work you've done, those factors play into part too. So, but yeah, so if you want to pull out your chart, if anyone has any questions, or if you're like, hey, my Leo is in, my Mercury's in Leo in the 3rd house, and you have like very specific questions, just let me know. Julie and I are going to kind of go through things at a different angle today. We're just going to kind of dive into some different placements of Leo 5th house, and that way we can kind of touch all the points. But again, if you have questions, shoot them over to me, DM me, whatever. I am happy to answer them for you. Leos tend to be like some of my best girlfriends. I like feminine, evolved energy. That's a really positive, grounded. It's like that friend that kind of keeps you on track. It's really no BS, but also like be responsible. Like they're pretty responsible. Now there can be things in your chart that maybe don't make you as responsible, but typically Leo energy is very responsible. Do you have a lot of Leo friends?
No.
No.
No. I removed myself from those situations.
They can be very challenging. If you've run across, and Julie and I we poke at like the masculine, unevolved Leo male, because the ego, Leo is driven. So it's ruled by the sun. It's driven by ego. They love to be the star of the show. And that can be really cool if you're like charismatic and you have this way about you and you're evolved and maybe you've worked through things and you include other people. I don't know. Sometimes the unevolved male ego is like me, look at me, no one else matters. And it's kind of like rude and just not it. I don't know how else to say it. It's just not it. It's not flattering, attractive.
Yeah.
With that. So I've encountered a few unevolved Leos in my life. And yeah, but you know what? I have she's like a daughter to me. She's a Leo and she's dating a Leo. and her girlfriend has very masculine Leo energy, very evolved. It was so cool to kind of see them interact. And she's also a Virgo Leo cusp, but I know she has so much power there, and she doesn't even know it. I just want to like tap into her brain and be like, listen, to have the charisma and the detail in one is a gift, but we'll get there. But it was really cool to see how they interacted with one another and just how evolved this little like masculine. And that's where it's like very important to understand that I'm not just saying like masculine has to be a male or feminine has to be a woman. That her girlfriend was very masculine, had a very masculine maturity to her that I just really admired. And I don't know, it was really cool because I thought, I'm going to use her on my Leo live because she was such a dope chick, and she was just like, had it together, and you could tell, and she was like, had the right questions, but also stood her grounds. Like, she was very Leo energy. I don't know. I really vibed. I liked her a lot. And especially for the girl that's like my daughter, because I'm like, you deserve the best. And I felt a really good vibe there. So,
I love that.
Yeah, a good, happy, masculine Leo interaction that I had recently, because I don't feel like I share those often.
I feel like they're like fewer and farther, or you're just like so traumatized by a Leo that like it overshadows the good Leos.
Mm-hmm.
I know one nice Leo, and she just like when she made us guess her sign live, and we couldn't guess, and she's like, okay, that means I've done a lot of work. It was really cute.
She's like, yay, they didn't guess Leo.
I think I was counting. I think about have like added up between my 2 toxic Leo relationships of friendships and partnerships. I think I have 21 years of Leo trauma, of unevolved Leo trauma. So
you're not the only one. I have a really good girlfriend who I'm like, tell me about your worst relationship. She's like, oh my God, it was a Leo. And he would not leave me alone. I'm like, yeah, he was unevolved. So we'll say that. But, it's like, and even like my daughter, she's dating or was dating a Leo. And I just, they have these, and he was very evolved. Like, he was cute kid, very aware of like his emotional intelligence was very high. He was, way more evolved than most, but there's still like Leo tendencies there that I see. And I'm just like, yeah, that's Leo. And she's like, yeah, he said this and did this. I'm like, yeah, he's got some work to do. He's 18, like,
right.
I'm proud of where he's at for that age. He's really killing it. So
impressive.
Yeah. So if you've ever been victimized by Leo, we've all been there.
Yes.
But they can be very sweet. They can be very tenderhearted. They can be very kind and generous. That's kind of one of my things that I like to point out about Leos. They have a sneaky intuition in there, and it can really be what their moon placement is. But a lot of times I find, and I think it's that primal cat energy that they like tap into something weird. I don't know. There's just Leo, especially masculine men that I've seen be pretty spot on with things that they're not so much evolved, but there's a knowing. And I like to say there's a knowing, and there's also like the cynical practical thing that they have, like, oh well, it's all going to hell anyways, and that's just where it's gonna go, that kind of thing. But there's also some intuitive nature there, and I think it's primal. I think it derives from Leo the cat, the lion. Sorry. Some of them are like little kitty cats, but whatever. But yeah, so I find them very fascinating, and trying to speak higher of them just because of our experiences. Again, the ego can be so daunting.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Good times. I'm gonna drink my water to that.
Like, looking at my chart, I just am the Leo rising, but then my sun's ruled by my chart's ruled by Leo.
Mm-hmm. The sun, so your sun really is your chart ruler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which then you chase to your sun, which is Capricorn, and then you chase to your Saturn because Saturn rules Capricorn, and see what's in there. It's like this whole rabbit hole if you follow, like, whatever your rising is, look at what planet rules that, and then go look at that planet in your chart and what signs in that, and then what planet rules that, and you can go and figure out all these different like correlations of like what context you're going to meet the person you want to marry. It shows you the context of like your family before the age of 7. Like, there's so much in astrology that I wish we could do like one big like deep dive, but I think that if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's literally going to be like,
It's like a foreign language.
yeah, she's not speaking English.
I do a lot of birth charts on the airplanes past the red eyes, flying home. And I'm like, oh, this and this and this. And they were like, I literally have no idea what you're saying. But I met this girl and she was asking the deepest questions. And I was like, I have to see your chart. Do you know what time you were born? I was like, and I was like so spot on. She was a Mercury and Scorpio in the 3rd house. I'm like, you make a fantastic therapist or a really good spy.
Look at you.
Like, I wanted to be a spy when I was a kid, except for the whole like torture thing. And I was like, all right. She's a Leo.
I was gonna say there must be some softness in there because that Scorpio Mercury would be like, and the torture was like the icing on top. We also give Scorpios a bad rep for like really like, being.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about Scorpio. I have some trauma to unpack there too.
Oh,
just use this as a therapy session.
That's really what we're here for. Basically.
Yeah,
a little knowledge, a little therapy.
Now my Leo rising is showing.
It is shining bright. I mean, a Leo rising is a really good one to have. So the Leo sun, we were going to kind of do things a little different, a little banter back and forth. Not really banter, because Julie and I don't banter. I'm not a banter person unless I just don't like someone. And I try to banter, but then it's just me being really honest. And it really goes sideways fast. Sage is like, you can't say that. I'm like, whoa.
It's too far.
It's too far. I know, exactly. Foot in my mouth. So yeah, I mean, but I'm working through that. But so she's going to ask a series of questions. We're going to communicate. We weren't going to do interview style, so we're just going to kind of flow with it. And it might end up like interview style, but that way to keep me on track. And so I don't find myself like talking about other comments that come through the sky randomly and that might impact your chart. I mean, it's totally irrelevant stuff sometimes. So just stay on the straight and narrow. I created it for myself because I'm like, did I even talk about what I was supposed to talk about?
Yeah, I feel like you get it done every time.
Do I?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, I don't really remember what I said, but I don't know if it was helpful, and it might have been too much or not enough. I don't know.
You're good. First question. And people watching, also feel free to comment below and answer with us. What are some of your favorite qualities of a Leo sun?
An evolved Leo sun can be one of the most loyal people you ever meet. I say evolved because I know a lot of Leos that are not loyal, but they're definitely not evolved. When you have a Leo that's evolved, they are extremely loyal, extremely caring. I guarantee you that is the person you can call in a crisis if you need someone. Leos are, and fire signs typically are like that. Fire signs have this capability of really showing up. They're action signs, and so they're really good at showing up, especially in the, a moment of drama. They also, I truly believe fire signs like drama.
Oh yeah.
Show me a fire sign that doesn't like drama. And so when there's drama happening, they show up in a real way, in a physical way. And so Leo being one of them likes to help in that way. So that's probably my favorite. Loyalty and just the capability of showing up on a whim. You need something, it's a sign to call. So dependable.
And an evolved Leo will give you the shirt off their back.
Yes. Unevolved will probably give you the shirt off their back, but it's going to come with like, what's in it for me? Like if you're the opposite sex, oh, please know that there is no, and if they're attracted to you, they're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. I promise you that. I know that. Leos step up and say that if you didn't find someone attractive, probably wouldn't help them unless you were very evolved and humanitarian-like and really channeling that opposite of your polarity, that Aquarius energy. Otherwise, no, you're doing it for an ulterior motive. So, right? Do what you do. Loyalty. I would say loyalty for sure.
Yeah, and also like never a dull day. Usually pretty great outfits.
Great hair.
Yeah, great hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My
Like,
daughter is a Leo rising as well, and she has just the thickest hair. Anytime we get her hair done, I'm like, listen, charge us for a full, let's do a partial. They're like, no, she's a blonde. You know, everyone assumes because you have blonde hair, it's not thick. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I don't want to get in there and it'd be like triple the cost. This is what we're gonna do. And they're just
yeah.
like, I get in there and they're like, oh my God, her hair. Full hair, very lively, very excited, outgoing. That Leo ascendant is very friendly. She also has a Taurus sun and Aquarius moon, so it kind of offsets that a little bit, but typically friendly. Your Capricorn sun offsets yours a little bit.
Yeah.
If you had like a Leo sun, a Gemini, I don't want to say moon, a Libra, you know, more airy qualities, maybe a Gemini with a Leo rising, that would be someone that was very outgoing and things like that. A
Yeah.
little more sweet and kind, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm like, well, my partner is a Leo rising with a Gemini moons, and I can confirm.
Yes, very sweet, very kind. And so it's the earth signs that kind of bring that friendliness down a few notches, like
I know.
because you guys are skeptical. You guys are natural skeptics, and you know, rightfully so.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've heard you could be kinder.
Absolutely. I think you've always been a delight. I don't know what those people are talking about.
I'm
But
only rude if
yes,
people deserve it.
sometimes they do.
I do. It's not my fault.
Yeah, no,
Match energy.
the Leo rising is showing again. Tuck your Leo rising away. No, just kidding. I love it. I'm here for it.
Never a dull day. What are some characteristics of an evolved versus unevolved? And we've kind of talked about this.
Yeah. I like I said, I typed these questions up so fast, and I was like, these are just things we need to touch on. And so I was like, still in my brain, so I kind of went through them. But yeah, unevolved, very look at me, everything is about me. I don't want to say narcissist. I feel like that word gets thrown around so much, but it really, if you're a Leo and you're unevolved, it does things, everything tends to be about you. And so they have a hard time being loyal if there's that tendency of not being evolved. They have a hard time with change. That's something that, again, I was kind of touching on this at the beginning. You don't really think about. Change is hard for them. It's, again, primal, that lion, that pride, people, same area. There's not a lot of movement. It's a fixed sign. Fixed does not like change. Fixed, it likes things the way they are. And so, but with that being said, Leo is known for one of the fastest signs to climb the corporate ladder. And so, and I say corporate ladder because they're not really entrepreneur types. They're definitely corporate ladder climbers. And the reason is they're very consistent. They're very dependable. They do work hard. There's a pride in their work. And so they tend to climb the ladder faster and stay there further and go as high as they can possibly go in like a business or in a company. Now, I'm not saying if you're a Leo, you can't be an entrepreneur at all. I'm just saying that typically, if you had a lot of fixed placements with a lot of Leo, it might be more ideal for you to have that corporate environment, and that works well for you. A lot of them feel safe in that too. There's this kind of like scaredy cat thing they've got going on. Like they fear the unknown extremely heavy. Like they're so terrified of like the things that they don't know, more than I think any sign, honestly. Like, and I don't know what that's about. Huh?
That's so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about,
They seem so bold and they present themselves so bold too.
but they're so scared. Unevolved. If you're evolved, I think there's a real trust in your intuition. Again, like I said, they do have this intuitive side to them. So there is this, I think they could lean on that heavily if they were very evolved. But I don't think I've ever met a Leo, evolved or not evolved, that wasn't ran off fear.
Interesting.
Think about the Leos that you know.
Yeah.
And how they were. I know a Leo with a Gemini moon. And let me tell you, when we had the earthquake in Utah in 2020, ground shaking, the unknown, COVID just hit. Like, He was panicked.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, wow, you're on a next level scared. And then I saw it with, so I had a coworker at the time, also a Leo. She was very scared. She was very like, and it was uneasy. It was, but I was like, I'm still going to work. So I'm important, whatever that title was that you have to go to as a work thing. Yeah, that's me. They're like, no, you're not. I'm like, no, yeah, I am. I gotta go. And so, yeah, me and my cancer homie, we were hanging out at the office. We were chilling because we were
Yeah.
not scared for some reason. But yeah, so I do think that there's fear there. And I don't think that has anything to do with an evolved or unevolved. It's more of just kind of implemented in them in a way. So think about that. If you're a Leo and you're like, oh, that's not me, because, that's the first reaction of a Leo. But really sit and think about, like, do I run off of fear? And that's why corporate worlds kind of really matter to them, because then there's like the safety of there's a safety of, okay, well, I have a career, I have a company, it's stable. Whereas like being an entrepreneur is scary. You don't know. You just kind of jump in and see what it takes. So yeah.
Interesting.
To answer your question in a really long about way, that was those are my favorite things.
I love that. What are Leo moons known for, and are they moody?
I threw Are They Moody in there because yes, they are moody. The moon, Leo is ruled by the sun. It likes to be the center of attention. When you have a Leo moon, it's not the center of attention. It's hidden. It's down. And it's not a super Philly motions, all the things sign either. So it is also in a placement and also not really driving with the energy of what the moon does. So there tends to be a lot of times with Leo moons a moodiness, an irritated kind of thing to them. Again, I do think these people have great intuition, and I do believe that there is a really deep connection with them and animals. I've seen a lot of people that are like animal mediums. They tend to have like a lot of fire sign placements, but a Leo moon is one of those that really connects and communicates with animals really well.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't have to be cats, it can be dogs, but that's something that I've also found. So yeah, they typically are moody, and depending on what house it's in. I mean, it could be in a really cool house, could be in the 5th house. They could really thrive there, and they're not as moody. But I mean, a Leo, moon in the 10th house, probably not the best. Or the 8th house, that's definitely not it. Or the 2nd house, yeah, those are challenges because they square and they're not really at home there in the energies of each house. And Leo moon, they wouldn't vibe. Typically.
What is a good sign for Leo in any planet?
So, depending on where Leo is in your chart, whether you're a Leo sun, a Leo moon, Leo Mercury, Venus, Mars, whatever, anytime someone has an element that is the same as yours, that would be Sagittarius, and that would be Aries. You're going to vibe with them. They're the same energy. They're energetic. They're fun. And it's just a really good time. There's also signs that are not in your element that work really well with you. I like a Leo and a Gemini mix. Leo and Libra typically mix well. Leo and Aquarius, absolutely my most favorite polarity couple. I think it has the best chance of making it more than any other polarity because they're both kind of assholes. They really are. I'm just gonna say it. Like, they both have this and together I think they create like a duo asshole team, but also with there could be a lot of placements that soften that up.
Yeah.
They like to call themselves realist. We're realistic. Like, no, you're cynical and just being a dick. Do what you do. It's fine. Some of us like to live in our happy world with our little cloud and rainbows and butterflies. I live in that world and I like it. I got a lot of haters for it. People are like, bring it down. But I'm not gonna. I'm never going to. I'm in the clouds. Leos. I've been told that by more Leos than probably any sign. Like, you're
That's so
always so positive. And it's because they cannot handle, they have this, like, little, and Aquarius too, they're right there with them. They're like, oh yeah, you're right. And so it's my favorite polarity couple. I think they vibe well together. I think they get each other. They're both kind of like loners. Leo, not as much. Leo likes to have fans. Aquarius, not so much. But they're just good. It's a good vibe. It's a good polarity mix. So, if you're a Leo, I highly recommend an Aquarius. If you're looking for something that's like, oh, different than me, but we get along, we're kind of on the same page, Aquarius is going to be way more artistic and just eccentric. But I feel like that can really complement the Leo ego because they're the star of the show, and Aquarius doesn't really care. But again, Sagittarius, Aries, any of those placements, like if you're like, oh, well, my Venus is in Leo, well, then you should definitely look for a Gemini Venus, Sagittarius Venus. I wouldn't even really recommend an Aries Venus just because they tend to be a little more possessive. But Sagittarius and Gemini for a Leo Venus, that could be a really beautiful relationship. So, again, Mercury, how you communicate, how you think, you should definitely look for someone with Sagittarius, Aries, Gemini, possibly Libra. There's some differences there. I don't always recommend that combo, but Aquarius, again, very different the way you think and the way you speak, but again, it is a good combo. So those are just a few different planets and what you should look for in the other person, but those are the signs. And then there's that like crazy weird like duo that doesn't make any sense to me at all, but I've seen Leo and Pisces pair up a few times, and I'm like, huh. But I've seen it. I've seen it enough for me to notice. And there's a couple one time, and I was like, "What is it for you guys?" And they both really couldn't tell me. They both were just like, she's crazy, and I like that, and he's consistent, but also a cheater." So I don't know. I don't know. I didn't really get a solid answer on that one, but I'm still trying to figure it out. But I do see it, and then I see a Leo and Taurus, which square each other. But Taurus is so consistent, and they're so like, they can be kind of bitchy too, but they're consistent. And I think the Leo really appreciates the consistency of that. And so Leo and Scorpio, maybe a lot of passion, but not long lived. Leo with earth signs is just not what I would recommend. Fire and earth, fire burns earth. It's just hard.
Yeah.
But you know what? The whole chart matters. So don't go by what I say, because I'm just saying.
You want a full reading.
Yeah, you want a full reading because you could have some really beautiful relationship with someone that's earth and fire. I'm just, I like a Sagittarius and a Virgo. I think they make a good match sometimes. So, it's not all. I hate a Capricorn and an Aries. Power struggle. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Who's going to lead?
Yeah.
It's not going to be the Aries, and that's not good for anybody. I'm just saying. But yeah, and then Aries and Cancer. There's just a lot of squares that I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer that, there's pretty broad, I could recommend a few different signs and different placements, but those are the ones. Sagittarius, Aries are your best bet, along with an Aquarius.
Yeah, I like that. Are Leo Mercury's good communicators?
Yes. Again,
I
know. It's a pending. No, actually, they are good communicators in the sense of they actually make really good leaders because they can be very direct. I say very good leaders. They can be very good leaders, and they may need to brushing up on some like tact skills, but typically they're very direct. They're to the point. There's a confidence in the way they think and they speak, and that confidence is it's respected, which is necessary in corporate, especially. Like I'm talking corporate, not someone that's like starting a business or something like that. That might be a little different. But I will say, though, so just to reference back to the masculine energy, like Leo energy that I encountered a few weeks ago, my friend's girlfriend, she was very assertive. She was very direct. She asked really good questions, and I literally wanted, like, I don't have space for her right now, but I wanted to be like, I will hire you. Like, I want to hire you. Like, come work for us, because I just know she's going to be a good leader. She's going to be, that, and it's that Mercury, it's that, and I would guarantee you she's a Leo sun. So it's not out of the question that she has a Leo Mercury. I could guarantee that almost. But yeah, they're just very direct, and they're very confident. Now, if you have a Leo Mercury in a placement or something that really squares, like maybe your Saturn is in Scorpio or Taurus, it could really offset that and change that. And then you could, or if you have Saturn and Leo, say your Saturn and Leo and your Mercury are right by each other, there can be a lot of, like, you could be the complete opposite. You could be like, oh God, I can't talk to anyone. There's no confidence. I have a really hard time, pushing, or allowing people, like, there's no boundaries, there's no confidence, this leader quality that would most of the time be something that you would see in that placement, completely gone, because Saturn would be trying to teach you how to overcome that. And so that could be an obstacle throughout your life, depending, and especially like if that were in the 10th house of like career. Oh, you're gonna have to do so much work, babe, to be a boss, because it's not going to come naturally to you. You're gonna have to push and evolve and push and evolve, and hopefully you have that, chart that can align with that. But that would be something you would see if you had a Leo Mercury right next to Saturn, let's say 10th house. That's kind of something you'd run into.
That makes sense. Leo Venus, possessive or not?
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to go that deep.
I mean, it really can depend. Like a Scorpio sun with a Leo Venus could be possessive, because the Scorpio sun, even a Scorpio moon, anything Scorpio with a little hint of Leo in that Venus area can really bring out this possessiveness and this like mind kind of thing. But I say that if you have a lot of light in your chart, maybe a lot of air, or other fires, it can be a little more free. And there's this element to a Leo Venus that's flirty, and they enjoy being flirty. And so when their partner's flirty, it gives them the okay to be flirty. That's kind of why earlier I was recommending like a Gemini Venus or a Sagittarius Venus versus like an Aries, because Aries is a little more serious, like we're not playing that game. But Gemini, Sagittarius, they would be a little more like, oh yeah, it's fine, I'm flirty too, we all, and that's just kind of that energy. So it could be possessive depending on your chart, but I would say 9 times out of 10 probably not, if they had a nice little flow in their chart.
This is one of my favorite ones I've been dying to talk about. Would you want a Leo Mars?
I'd take a Leo Mars over an Aries Mars.
I always feel like Cancer Mars are kind of terrifying.
We've talked about this. Like, there's the sneaky scary.
Yeah.
They're sneaky. Yes.
Yeah. I feel like a Leo Mars could be just kind of explosive.
There is not quite as bad as Aries. I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at this. A Leo Mars can really get some shit done. They can take action. They can get the shit done. Now, if their ego is hurt, watch out.
Yeah.
Aries, anything really sets Aries off in this placement. But Leo would be a little harder to set off. But if the ego is wounded, it's going to be very Aries, fiery, explosive energy throw the phone. You guys know I love the throw the phone with the Aries Mars. This is kind of that energy with the ego. I also see unevolved, of course. Have you ever watched like a 2-year-old throw a tantrum?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's like throwing a fit,
It's fast
crying.
fused, right? Like once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
I feel like it doesn't linger as long.
No, it doesn't. But an evolved Leo Mars could maybe, sit with whatever the ego that was bruised. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't really discovered a Leo Mars that was fully evolved, so it's hard to say. But yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't want it. It wouldn't be a placement that I would want. But they might have a lot of energy and they might get things done, and they're probably really bossy. They're probably really bossy, to be honest. But
My guess would be kind of good in bed, probably too.
yeah. And we didn't really touch on that with the Venus. I mean, they are passionate lovers, and they would want to, like in these placements in Venus and Mars, because those two both kind of line into how you love. As far as their love language, a lot of times I would say acts of service, because they're fire, and that's kind of their theme is fire, but also probably physical touch. There's like a physical touch aspect there that I could see for sure as their Venus. But sorry, one of my kids like, "Are you up?" No, I'm asleep unless I'm doing the live. Let me just want to make sure he's good.
Yeah, no worries.
But so yeah, if you have Leo Mars, good in bed, passionate, there's a lot of passion there, there's fire. And so that's just something that typically comes with that. So, and especially if your Mars and Venus align with theirs, the Sagittarius, the Gemini, the Aries. You think of an Aries Mars and a Leo Mars, I'm sure there's a lot of passion for everything that they do. I'm sure like every single thing is like passionate and just blah, and great for them. But I'm actually going to go through my charts and look, because I think I know a couple that has that quality, and they are very like in your face.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Now I gotta look at charts. Okay, Leo and Jupiter, is it lucky, and what house would make them super lucky?
So Jupiter and Leo is lucky. When you have Jupiter and Leo in the 3rd house and the 5th house, it expands that. Jupiter is all about expansion. It's big, it's abundance. And so Leo does bring prosperity. And then when you have it in the if you have it in the 5th and 3rd house. Sorry, I just had to make sure my kid was cool. And then he's like, I just wanted to know if you could Venmo me some money. I'm like, okay, I'm doing something
Are you
wrong.
in jail?
Are you in debt? You need me. But yeah, so anytime you have a Leo Jupiter and it's in the 3rd house, there is an abundance with, your upbringing and how you grew up, which I think that if you really think about like what is considered lucky, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you're lucky if you were born into money, or if you have the finances or the wealth or whatever, and yeah, that's lucky. But I think we don't really consider like, oh, I had a really good childhood as being lucky. And so this kind of incorporates a really good childhood. You think of a really good childhood, you need less therapy later, you had good friends growing up, you have good structures, good foundations, all of that really aligns and kind of creates who you are. That can set you up for way more success than, being handed money as a kid and having everything, and then getting up to an adult and then being like, I suck. I didn't, my everything is all jacked up because I had all this trauma. And, so it's kind of one of those abundance in a different way than like wealth or, assuming assets from people and things like that. It's more of like how you were brought up, and having good friends, having again like those good foundations that really sets you up in this grand way. Because like, could you imagine just not having any childhood trauma and just being like a normal human existing in society and like, oh, everything is fine, like, That's that kind of energy. What is that?
Yeah. Like,
I don't even know if that exists, but I mean, it's Leo, Jupiter in the third house probably can say you had a pretty good childhood and not a lot of trauma.
why wouldn't you want your Saturn in Leo?
Because I already have ego problems.
Honest.
I'm just saying. First off, I'm a Libra sun, which is super annoying. It's not the sign I would have picked for myself. I know there are Libras out there like, oh my God, we're the best. We're not. It's in fall. It does not make sense to have a Libra sun. My Libra sun is actually the weakest thing in my chart. I might as well be a Sagittarius or a Virgo or a Scorpio. Scorpio is my second. I don't know why I said Virgo. Scorpio, then Virgo. But anyways, so when your Saturn is in Leo, there are definitely challenges that you go through in life that hurt your ego, that make you go through things that make you question yourself. A lot of, like, if your Saturn was in Leo in the first house, God bless your soul, because how you view yourself, how you look at yourself, how you think of yourself could be very impacted by this placement. And it can create this uncertainty. It can create doubt. There could be shame there along with that, in the sense of like, you really have to get really secure in who you are. And until you really go through that first Saturn return, like your 20s and your teen years, you're probably like awkward, and it was probably just hits you hard. So it's a really challenging placement. I mean, they all are. Saturn is not a fun, anything. Nobody's having fun in Saturn. Let me tell you, you didn't have fun in your Saturn return. And if you did, well, I don't know. I think I had fun in mine, but there were rocky times. But it's like, you learn a lot, and that's what your Saturn return is for. And unfortunately, having so much fun is great, but it doesn't teach you anything. It doesn't give you any knowledge. It doesn't give you, like, it's the hurt and the going through the bullshit that really builds character and really teaches you how to evolve, how to push through, how strong you are. If nothing gets put in your path, an obstacle, you don't have to overcome anything. You never really know how strong you are. So with that being said, Leo is just hard because ego's hard to let die. As humans, we are driven by ego with everything. There's so much ego on like social media. And that's just like our world and all the things. So, I mean, I think that in this day and time, it's really hard. Back in the day, it may not have been as hard because you could do some shady shit that you were embarrassed about and no one probably knew, but people around you, people at the bar, the brothel that night, it's not going to get leaked tomorrow of you acting a fool. That time was different. So yeah, I think it would be a really challenging one, but
yeah. And we kind of talked about why Leo is sneakily intuitive. Is it a Neptune placement?
So yeah, that's what I was going to say. I knew I had that question in there, so I didn't touch on the Neptune, but there is, with Neptune and Leo, having Neptune in Leo can give you a really strong intuitive nature. Intuition is really on point. As long as you learn how to tap in and trust your gut. I mean, that's what I like, the placement of having a Leo Neptune. I think it's a good one. I think it gives you, a lot of times Pisces and Cancer and Scorpio, they're intuitive. They know the things because they are water signs and they can feel. But there's that, like, again, primal lion energy there. Neptune really channels that well. So
yeah, that's an interesting one. This one I just read it briefly and just laughed. Do people with Leo Uranus end up incarcerated?
I'm gonna take a drink of my water before I answer that.
I was like, did you have Leo and Uranus?
I've never been incarcerated.
No. Okay.
Never once. The only
time that surprises me from your stories.
It surprises me too. Listen, I have rules. I have be good or be good at it.
Yeah.
And being good at it has a time limit. If you listen to nothing else I say astrology, just know if you're doing shady shit, there is a time frame on that. My old sandbox homie hood friend was like, it's gonna expire. It's gonna expire one day. And so he was right. You know, I've seen it. I've seen it with so many people that have like gotten away with so much. And so now, I mean, I've always been, you know, I have some things, but I'm good now. I'm good. I'm on my straight and narrow because my time limit is expired. So no, I've never been incarcerated. I don't even have Leo in my chart. The reason I brought this up is because Uranus is all about rebellion. Leos tend to be very black and white about things that they feel very passionate about. That's that fixed energy. Now, if you have a Leo Uranus in the 3rd house, in the 12th house especially, because the 12th house is incarceration. If you have that, there's probably this real need to rebel. And being a fire sign, you're probably a little passionate about how you rebel. And it's kind of a recipe for somebody that has issues with the police. I'm just going to say it. It happens, you know. And again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, Leo's being scared and they have this kind of like fear thing about them. They have that, but there's also ego, so much ego. They're sun, they're ruled by the sun, it's who they are. And so if something is bruised, there's like the ego. If something is hurt or someone is crossing a boundary for them, there is a high probability that they might lose their shit or pop off. And a lot of times having this placement makes them rebellious against like a organized what are the police? I don't even know. The police. I'm just gonna say the police. Or some it doesn't have to be the police. I guess in certain areas it's like different people, different names for who does what. I don't know. But typically this is a placement for someone who has probably been incarcerated once or twice in their lifetime. A little rebellious, passionate, rebellious.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, Winston, I gotta see this. Hold on. Sorry. What generational themes would be Leo Pluto era, this time of self-expression?
I think of like the Great Gatsby. It wasn't. I mean, this is just an example because it wasn't. Leo hasn't really made its way around with the whole Pluto thing. But expression, self-expression is a big deal. I mean, this would be like the time of really bold expression. It would be the best way of describing this. So if that were to come around, which I'm sure it will, I need to check up on it because we might be getting close.
Oh, fun.
I don't know. Actually, I don't think so. But it would just be a time of self-expression and just boldness and pride, ego, you know.
Yeah.
You gotta take the good with the bad.
We're talking about Leos and my cat just comes and sits like right here. Speaking of narcissists.
He says, look at me, everybody.
Yeah. Okay, and then the rest of these are talking about houses, and we've kind of talked on them. So I don't know if you want me to like go deeper into any of them with time frames.
We can just there's a few that you want to like touch on that maybe that were brief or not. If you want to tune in or tell me what your Leo placements are, where they are, what house they're in. If you have any Leo in the 0 degrees, make sure that you pay attention to that. It's very important. It's new energy, so make sure that you're, careful with your ego, careful with, how you treat others. It's kind of a lot of things going on there with the 0 and the Leo, just not being maybe as evolved as like a 29 degree or 28 degree because you haven't really fully gone through that full experience with that energy. And so if you find yourself being kind of a hothead and, exploding, don't. Check yourself right now.
Awesome. And then, yeah, that's pretty much basically all these are me see real quick. Oh, this one. Does Leo in the third house mean they were a bossy sibling?
Yes. If you're a Leo sun and your sun is in the third house and you had siblings, I guarantee you were not a fan favorite. You were bossy, you probably tattled. Oh, probably like I just imagine this kid like bullying everybody and like pushing people down. It's that kind of energy. Especially at 0 degrees.
Yeah, right.
Someone out there's like, I'm 0 degrees, Leo in the third house. Can confirm I was an asshole. But yeah, so I mean it's not necessarily a bad sibling. I mean, they're gonna make you tough. There's a reason for it. It's necessary. But yeah, it's probably major bossy vibes. And yeah, wouldn't be someone I would want as a sibling.
Yeah. Leo in the opposite of its home in the 11th house.
So Leo typically, you know, the 5th house is kind of that Leo energy ruled by the sun, right? And so the opposite of that would be in the 11th house. And so anytime you have, I like this mix in charts because I think it gives you, again, your sun sign is how you think, and I associate it with ego, and your rising is how you feel and who you truly are on the inside. Now the moon is your emotions and all that, and how you handle things and how you interpret things and really process and feel things. But who you are to your core is your rising. Who you are up here is your ego, which is your sun sign. So when you see the sun sign, say take Leo, the sun sign, the biggest of all the egos, and you put it in a house, Leo is all about self. You put it in the 11th house, which is of others. It's the complete opposite. And it's not to be confused with Aries and Libra, because even saying that, like those are the exact opposites as well. And one is self, one is others, because Libra is partners, Aries is self. But Leo, again, is all about ego, me. And the 11th house is like community, people, connections, humanitarian. And so when Leo suns are placed in that, they want to be home. They want to be in their home front, and they want to really spend their time there and their energy there. And that is what makes them feel comfortable and what they feel they need to do. When you put it in a house of community, there's this push in life. You want to be home? No, your parents are going to travel and join the Peace Corps, and now you're a part of it. You want to be home? No, you're now, Army kids. You want to be home and have that as you get older? Nope, your job is going to take you and push you in projects to deal with a community. And so you think of like maybe an accountant that starts working for a company, and there's this like safe job, and then all of a sudden they're like, we're going to push you into another country to do analytics or accounting or whatever there. So it's like that kind of like energy of where you want to be home and you get pushed into somewhere else, typically a community. Typically it's something that involves humanitarian work, or it involves some sort of community projects. And I'm not saying that Leos don't like that sort of thing, but it's definitely not where they want to be. So when you have your ego, your thought, and in Leo, or any sign, like take your sign, whatever the opposite of that is, putting your sun sign in that opposition is kind of like, wow, like Libra. I'm a Libra sun. If my sun were in the first house, it's very conflicting because I want to do for others, and I want to, I'm a peacemaker and I want all these things. But then I have my sun in the house of self where I'm about me. And so it's like, that makes sense. Like there's that, it's just completely opposite of what your ego wants to do. It's in a direction in life that pushes you completely opposite of what you think you should be doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Would you say, or something I've like started noticing is people with Leo rising, like specifically females in Leo rising, either have a hard time being too visible or feel unseen completely. question.
No, I mean, that's a good question because I think that if you're a Leo rising and you're not feeling like you're being seen, I would assume that your Saturn is somewhere really close to that rising line
Mm.
or something, maybe Neptune.
Mm.
There's something there that would cause you to not feel seen because it wouldn't be normal for a Leo rising to not feel seen or not feel like, typically they tend to be too much unless there's something there. Now, with that being said, and this would play a part with Saturn, if something were to happen at an early age to bruise that ego and cause you to go maybe inward instead of out, like maybe someone was like, oh, you're a show off, and that really impacted you as a kid. And again, that could be like a Saturn, something in the third house, childhood, some sort of trauma learning, and then you having this expressive self and that being hindered in some way. So to answer that, typically I would say if there is a Leo rising that is not expressive and bold and has that like, wow, it's all about me, like kind of appearance, I would say there's something that's happened along the way and probably some Saturn things going on there, but could be other things.
Right.
That would be the reason for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Something to look at. I mean, you can look at totally all the things in the chart when you're looking at it, but typically that's what that would look like.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's just something I've noticed. I'm meeting these people on the airplane for the first time and then reading their charts. And just based on like my first interactions with them, I'm like, okay, this is interesting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And when you say that, I mean, one of the things, like I found sometimes I've done a reading, I'm like, oh, this means you're really outgoing when people first meet you. And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, then something happened. And then I'll look and I'm like, oh, this happened at this time. And they're like, oh, shit, yeah. And I'm like, that's why you're not as expressive. And they're like, yeah.
That's
And
great.
so, that's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, I mean, you can ask the questions, you can gauge people. And if they're like, yeah, that's me, or no, that's not. And then you look at why that's not them. And it's 9 times out of 10, it's Saturn.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Your soul.
I know. Well, thank you. That was awesome. I feel like we did a better job with not hating on them this time.
I know. I'm really trying because I feel like I would hate for some young influential person to just be watching or catch this and me say things and then feel bad about their sign or, I've been thinking heavily on that lately. So I have encountered unevolved. We all have.
Yeah.
But, and if I explain some of the things that are unevolved tonight and you don't like them and you're like, I'm a Leo and that resonates, do better. Yeah, that's all we all can do is do better.
Facts.
I mean, it's very simple.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Meditate, breathe.
Yeah.
Don't
shadow work.
Yeah. Shadow work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Our next one is going to be the 6th house in Virgo on June 20th, and we'll be together. I'm so excited.
I'm excited. We got to figure out where we're going to do that. No details.
Yeah, we could do it here or wherever. We can figure it out. Yeah. I got a multiple person couch. Their cats would join.
Oh, yeah. No, I would not want it any other way.
Yeah.
So, okay. Oh, wow. And I'll be on 8 o'clock time, not 9 o'clock time.
Yeah.
I'll still be sleepy because I'm still going to be in Oklahoma time, but that is
always sleepy. I've been sleepy for 42 years.
I know when you said that, I was like, I feel that. I totally feel
that. Thank you so much
yes.
for watching. And I'm sorry it didn't go through on the Facebook page for whatever reason. There's a glitch there that I got to figure out, but at least we're on YouTube, so that's good.
You can find us there.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.